What's going on, traders? It is Antoine Farrar back with another trading video with Digital Goatz Academy. So today, what I wanted to do was do a pop-up for my community because looking at the market, it's kind of been, uncertain. So I wanted to try to bring some clarity to how the market is moving and what we should be getting prepared for going into 2026. So let me go ahead and pull up my charts. Now this is going to be real quick, or maybe not. We'll see. But the one thing that I did notice with US well, indices across the board is that it feels like they're building resistance, right? So if we just look at it on the higher time frame, 4 hour, let's just look at the 4 hour on US 30, the 4 hour on S&P, the 4 hour on NASDAQ. So as you can see, this morning they all bought up, right? They all bought up, but they actually pushed down very strong this morning out of this resistance area up here. Now, specifically when I look at US 30, this was an area that I expected the market to break and actually continue buying back up. And as you can see this morning, like during the trading session for New York, we actually rejected that area. Let me make sure people can actually join the call. I forgot about that. Show meeting. Okay. Yeah, people can join the call. But anyway, so this was around like 12 p.m. And again, if you've been following our channel, you know we talk about like timestamps when it comes to trading. So around like 12 p.m., if anything, the market should have did maybe like a slight pullback. But the fact that it actually brought the market down all the way to where it bought up from this morning, or basically London session, to me, that was a red flag right there that we're probably getting the market to actually come down lower than what we originally expected. So if you look at just this area alone, and again, I base a lot of stuff off of how US 30 is reacting. So if I'm looking at indices, I'm seeing how US 30 is reacting because that's basically the leader of the pack, right? So if you see US 30 selling, you can almost be certain eventually NASDAQ or S&P will be selling. NASDAQ is like the wild card because NASDAQ could be buying while both US 30 and S&P are selling. Or NASDAQ, what I've seen these past 2 weeks, NASDAQ and S&P can be in line, and then US 30 could be doing the opposite. But that's why I try to stay, I put NASDAQ and S&P, I mean not NASDAQ, but S&P and US 30 together instead of like trying to focus on the NASDAQ. But if we see opportunities, we take it. So I thought price was building support up here. And again, I would have still been bullish had price not rejected a previous resistance zone. It just looks like price created a higher high in order to start its sequence to start pushing the market down. So currently right now we see that the market did gap down if you go to the smaller time frame. You can see that it gapped down, opening up at 8, right? So a gap down and now it's slightly pushing back up to probably fill that gap. If not, some of this imbalance that's up here. Now, what we don't want to happen is the market try to build support off here, which I don't think that's going to happen because again, I'm basing it off of market structure, the thing that we kind of got to get used to identifying. Where's the structure? And again, you see it based off of hills and valleys, right? So if you turn it to a line chart, which gives you the best possible depiction of structure, where you can actually see where the market created these hills or created these dips. So that gives a lot of clarity into saying, okay, that's resistance or that's support, right? So right here, we can see that price build resistance. I mean, we know this already as traders, but maybe we were uncertain about this area because price could have possibly broken this resistance and met this high and then continue buying up. That's what I was looking at until we had this area. Now, what constitute resistance or support? We need two points of data that touch the same price area or same price zone to establish what? Support or resistance. So that's our 2 points of contact at 48,368 or 48,370. So 48,370. Now I had I had a buy zone like after the continuation for 48,500, and I expect that price to stay bullish from there. The fact that we've actually dropped below that, that's already another indication that okay, price is probably trying to push down a little bit lower. I do think that we're going to be bullish next year with what it sounds like, especially with all these rate cuts being potentially priced into next year. It sounds like we're going to start off the market bearish, which is kind of common. You know what I'm saying? It starts off bearish, like going into like the new year, and then probably like January, anywhere from January to March, you might get like bullish momentum from there. We we don't have like true resistance on the higher time frame. So to me, all this is just a big correction. So this could lead us back into that territory that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where price could possibly come back all the way for US 30, this is all the way back to like 42,000. When you really look at it, this was the last area that price bought up from. So again, what did we establish? We established areas of consolidation that we're looking for. So if price breaks out of consolidation with no pullback, no type of test, that's more than likely where it's targeted. And you can find that across the map. I mean, across the charts as you like scale in and look at these areas. Like I had an area, like for example, this area over here, this is consolidation. Price did buy up from this consolidation, but it also created resistance on this side. So even though it did validate this buy, once we hit this resistance and price refused to break this area, I started looking at that where sellers are basically probably stronger, yo. So those are things that you have to be able to spot, and that's why I always emphasize looking at a line chart because it gives you the best depiction of structure that you need in the charts. If you're looking at just candlesticks alone, it's easy to get manipulated by how the candlesticks are moving. But if you turn to a line chart, that's already information that's there. You know what I'm saying? And again, the higher the time frame, the truer the direction. So if you're looking at a line chart, you get the better sense of structure. It doesn't give you the opportunity for clean entries, but at least lets you see the data that was already made without being confused or lost because indices like are moving chop or because the market is moving like choppy, right? So that's what I'm looking at overall for like US 30, well, indices across the board, which changes up my analysis on Bitcoin. I did believe that Bitcoin was about to go on the bull run. We're probably going to see crypto start to tank. And I don't know where that's going to put us at. So that means that a lot of the crypto bros portfolios, if they have bought anywhere like high up, they're probably in the red, right? So I had already said that we'll probably get support here, but what it looks like is that price is actually going to dive deeper and probably head to that 55 territory that I mentioned. I don't know. We could be the previous high, which would be 65K, where price broke out of, but I don't know. We could go lower than that. To me, that would kind of be insane to go lower. It's really hard to depict on how like crypto is moving because a lot of it is based off of like economic data, I mean, fundamental data, which is, like news in the economy or, political influences, things like that, what a company may be doing, all that stuff that's going on. So you don't really have true data. I mean, we can go with technical analysis, and this is the easiest way to identify like how crypto is moving because again, the technicals tell a lot about the story, but because it's so new, we don't have a lot of the fundamental data that we've been using for like US 30 or S&P or hell, even some of the currencies, the Forex pair, regular Forex pairs that we've been trading throughout this year. So we could see, like I said, if we're looking at market structure, this is the last area that price, well, this is where we consolidated. We broke out of this area. We did test it. We know that price loves to test a little bit lower, so it can put us back into the 65, 60,000 territory before buying back up. But again, that would make sense to me too, because I don't expect I don't expect indices to like be in a downtrend, so to speak. I think they're just more so in a correction territory. I mean, a correction path right now. So until we get into next year where we can have a lot of that data funnel in and start adding positivity to the market. But we may see cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, start to push down to the lower levels than what, the crypto bros projected, right? So if we break that 74K, we know that obviously we're going lower. And I don't know how low, but like I said, the first point of contact would be like 65K. Now, with indices selling off, this also brings me to another point. You see how everything's doing like a domino effect because it does bring me to another point. I had once believed that UJ was selling off. I did, you know what I'm saying? We were actually bullish here. This was actually our prior buy zone, all right? So we were actually bullish here, and then the market dropped down into this territory. So I'd already thought that we created support, which we did. This was support and price pushed up, but it looks like it's still maintaining this resistance. So if you scale out on a higher time frame and you just look at it, you see that price has refused to break this resistance right here. This is previous resistance. So when we start seeing price react this way, what is the market trying to tell us? It's telling us that this once resistance where you could have taken sells from is now support. Price did not break this area. It brought back up, and this was actually a buy zone of ours. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm starting to look for buys for UJ, which means that the DXY is still bullish. Like I said, it's like a domino effect why this is important. I feel like this is like a state of emergency for traders right now because this can put you in the right position for next year where this might be a hands-free trade where you don't even have to pull out your profit until like March time frame, depending on like what you're trading, because obviously swap fees will whoop your ass. But if you have like um a big account and you're not moving like, aggressive on your lot sizes or you're not trading aggressive pairs, yeah, you probably could hold. This brings me to another point, GU. So what happened this morning? This morning we had that conference from President Lagarde, that's the European Central Bank president, so the ECB for short, they had their interest rate decision today. Now, the one thing she said was that the data is unchanged, and they did that the last time. That means you go off of technical analysis if you ever hear when they come to their interest rate decisions, if they're not saying like if it's a 25 basis point or 75, if they say the data is unchanged, that means you go off of technical analysis. So whatever the market was doing prior to that, which it was building resistance over here, that's what you have to react to. So looking at this domino effect of just seeing how indices could possibly drive the market down, drive the market down in a correction phase, I'm looking at GU to possibly start selling off right now. This was a gap that we had. Now, gaps react a little bit different with Forex pairs than it does with indices. So you're really just looking to see it test the gap. You don't even need it to really fill it. And you can see down here, since we created the gap, we've been up here one, if you want to count that, two, three, four. Wow, what does that spell right there? Or what does that tell us right there? 3 to 4 touches. When you look at a sequential trade of like a trend, you're looking for the 2 touches to establish a support, right? The third touch is like getting you in preparation for what the market may do. The fourth touch is the breakout, which normally tells you the direction that the market is going. That's not saying that the market is infinitely going in that direction, but more so the market is reacting to that area, right? So I'm looking at GU to sell. And again, all this is based off of a domino effect. So this could give us opportunities to sell back to like support structures that price broke out of. I still think GU might be bullish. Well, it's still bullish overall, but it may just want to come down here and test like these areas that it broke up out of and didn't correct itself to. So we're possibly looking at GU returning back here to the support before we even entertain the idea that price could be buying back up from this area. But I really wanted to like address this because I see this as one as an opportunity, but also putting us in the correct direction going into January. We don't want to be lost because we already know that the market is going to be choppy. So we want to establish like what the trend is overall going into the new year. So that way, when comes January, the market opens for us and we know it's going to be like slow moving, choppy, inconsistent. We're not confused because we've already kind of identified like the overall direction for us. So, yeah, I think that this was very important to kind of go over because I know we've been seeing like the momentum from the stock market. So the stock market has definitely been up this year, but I think now we're heading to that cool down phase. And don't make no mistake, like the market has been like manipulating all of us. Like I did have the idea or I did have the analysis that the market was selling off, but then it started buying up. It bought higher than what I expected, but it still was in the area where I was looking to sell. But then the buy kept on looking like it was going to be strong. And, that's just what it is when it comes to being a trader and stuff. I would say the sells are kind of harder to establish like a position than the buy. I feel like the buy is kind of easy if you wait for it. But, we've kind of been getting our head bust on, we identified the sell, which seeing that now, I believe that that's true, but, the sell wasn't sticking. So I'm looking at US 30, like I said, to continue its trend after it tests this candle. I don't know if it's gonna like consolidate like on a smaller time frame or just like do a shallow pullback and then break out from here. But yes, just looking at this formation, I am looking at US 30 to push us all the way back down. Um, at least to this gap, and then from here, from like 40. I would even say 45K because I really want us to fill this gap 100%. I don't like that it hasn't claimed territory to this gap. So I would say like 44,900. Like 44,900 is like the first point of contact on where I'm looking at US 30 to go down to if it starts pushing us all the way down, which I do think that that's going to be the case. And then we'll establish if the market is trying to buy up from here or not, or continue selling down. Like I said, the lowest point that I'm expecting the market to possibly travel would be 40K. But we just got to see what the data is going into next year. We won't get any type of moves like that until next year. If anything, before this year is over, we could probably see like 45K again. But that just depends on, if the market has enough momentum and sellers are, strong in that direction. But that's all I got for you traders, man. Like I said, I wanted to push this out there because we've already established a lot of these directional bias for the market. So it's like seeing how the market is reacting today. It's like, well, we probably were right on our first analysis. It just seems like we've been chasing the market or a little bit behind the market. So that's all I got, traders. I'll catch you on the next video with Digital Goats Academy. As always, I'm Antoine Farrar. Everybody have an amazing trading month. I hope everybody has a happy holidays. I don't know if we're doing anything next week. But if we do, just be ready. Just be ready to be, attentive and lock into the chart, y'all. So I'll catch you on the next video. Signing off. Peace.